right, here we go. It is time to chill and thrill. How was your weekend? We had a wet one here in Southern California. We got our first rainfall in 10 months. Think of it, no rain for 10 months. I mean, it's so rare that it rains here. It's almost as rare as a Buffalo Bills Super Bowl championship. Yeah, we just lost our one listener in Buffalo. Oh well, it was worth it. From Hollywood, it's the world-famous Mojo Elliott, set to go with another action-packed adventure of the Rat's Ass Podcast. I got to tell you, you guys have been hitting the Rat's Ass Podcast website we launched a week ago like a frickin' piñata, so thank you for that. If you haven't been yet, give it a hit at ratsasspodcast.com. You can listen to the podcast, read the blog, and connect with us on the socials, too. We're also close to 1,100 followers on TikTok, so we want to thank you for that, too. Fleabag and I are working on ideas for if and when we go live on TikTok. We'll keep you posted on that. We're also doing the Rat's Ass Podcast Fan Club naming. We've got 3 new contenders: Rat Bastards Club, Rat Bastards Mafia, and Mischief Mob. Those are the 3 top contenders. Now, how we're doing this, everybody who's sending us suggestions, we're putting all of them on a spreadsheet. Then we're resending it back out to everybody who's participating, and they're voting. So if you want to get in on it, just go to ratsasspodcast@gmail.com. Send us your suggestion for a name for the fan club, and we'll announce it next Monday. We'll be sending spreadsheets back and forth all week to everybody. We want to thank you for participating on that, too, because I know it's a little bit of work on your part. You're probably going, why did I start this? But we do appreciate it, really, and we'll announce the winner next Monday. We'll get this out of the way pretty quick. All right, the Super Bowl is set. Super Bowl 59 in New Orleans, Kansas City, and Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love. Yeah, it's kind of a replay of 2 Super Bowls ago, right? Same quarterbacks, same 2 teams. But this one, I think, is going to be a better Super Bowl. And I kind of outlined it for you on the Rat's Ass Podcast blog. You can check that out. It gives you kind of a preview between these 2 teams. But, yeah, Kansas City edged out Buffalo. I pulled for Buffalo. I didn't pull hard enough, I guess. Maybe I got back that one Buffalo listener that we just lost. Philadelphia destroyed Washington. They put up 55 frickin' points. I mean, that was probably, as far back as I can remember, the biggest slaughter of a playoff team in history. Has to be, at least in my recent memory anyway. 55 points. That was just destroying Washington. Absolutely they did. All right, so Super Bowl on February 9th in New Orleans. Kansas City going through the three-peater. I guess we can't say three-peat because Pat Riley, who was the general manager of the Miami Heat in the NBA, I guess he trademarked that phrase several years ago when the Lakers won 3 in a row. And so bottom line is you have to watch how you use that. So we'll just call it a three-peater. Sounds sexual, doesn't it? All right, but prepare yourself for 2 weeks of Taylor and Travis stories, all right? All right, let's talk some politics here. Nah, let's not just say we did. No, I'm just kidding. Trump made a visit here to L.A. on Friday to view the Pacific Palisades and Altadena fires. He cracked the whip on L.A. Mayor Karen Bass at a local town hall. She was saying that, well, maybe we'll let the residents back in about a week. Because Trump was talking about, letting the people who own the properties back in, let them start helping with the cleanup. And she was concerned about safety, and I get that part. But Trump, and his mindset is, people can take safety precautions. We're dealing with adults here. Let's get this cleaned up and gone. And she said, well, maybe about a week. And he said, a week is a long time. You have special powers to approve things. You can get it done in 24 hours and get these folks back in, and they'll have it cleaned up in a day. Now, I don't think they'll have it cleaned up in a day. There's a lot of destruction there. But you get the point, is that he was pushing the envelope. And that's what I like about this guy. He's a builder, and he knows that time is money. And he's pushing the envelope a little bit. And that's what Trump does. You've got to understand that, how the man thinks and how he works. Slumlord Governor Gavin Newsom greeted Trump at the airport, started with all these hand gestures, pointing and all of this stuff. And, he played up for the cameras, acting like he was giving Trump the fifth degree, when all he was doing was basically kissing his ass. Thanks for coming. We really need your help. We got to have money. And, I know everybody's talking about these stipulations, but I'll tell you what, I don't have a problem with stipulations on this Democratic government in California, and I'll tell you why. Okay? Gavin Newsom, when he took office 6 years ago, had a $90 billion surplus, and he's overseeing the fifth largest economy in the world. 6 years later, we're close to $100 billion in debt. Okay, that's a $190 billion turnaround for those of you who are challenged with math. Okay, so why would I want the federal government to give me money? When I can't manage my own state, why should I expect the federal government to give me money without some kind of oversight? I mean, we had $128 billion go for a bullet train to nowhere. Nothing was done. $128 billion spent on something that never materialized. We had $24 billion for the homeless that just disappeared. Plus, when we had the COVID, there was another $28 billion that was mismanaged, that didn't go for COVID. So why would you want to trust Gavin Newsom with any federal money whatsoever? If I'm Donald Trump, I got this guy on speed dial every day for an update. I want to know what's going on every single day. If you got my federal dollars, I want to report every day. I want to know where every damn dime is going to make sure. Because if you don't, whatever the federal government gives California, it's going to disappear. I promise you, it's going to disappear. This Newsom character, man, the slumlord governor, he has no character, no integrity, no loyalty, no class, and no moral compass. But he wants to be our president in 2028. That's not going to happen. Not going to happen. I'm going to make it my mission to point out Democratic dipshittery whenever it happens. We had a lot of it over the weekend. We don't have a traditional legacy media anymore. We've got a gotcha media instead. Trump has been in office 1 week, and the gotcha media over the weekend were trying, and the minions as well that follow him, are trying to, they're bitching that the prices haven't come down yet in 5 days, 5 to 7 days. Prices haven't come down yet. What's going on? You're not as effective as you said you were going to be. Now, I know the president said that we were going to get things fixed and we're going to get them fixed fast, okay? But you got to learn the difference between rhetoric and reality here, all right? So I'm going to take you back to the Jimmy Carter years, okay? His economy was not as bad as Biden's, but it was a pretty shitty economy. So it might take a little bit longer, but back then it took about 3 years for Reagan's economy to finally kick in before the 80s was probably the best decade for the economy ever. But prices probably won't come down a whole lot. I wouldn't look for that compared to where they were prior to the pandemic per se. But what you will see in time is wages will increase to make up for it. It'll all balance out. You'll see some prices come down. And like J.D. Vance said over the weekend when he was trying to, what's her name, Margaret so-and-so with ABC was trying to get you. We're going to do a gotcha moment. Prices aren't coming down. What's going on? And J.D. had to point out, hey, listen, if we're talking about the price of bacon, it's run on diesel fuel. We got to get those prices down, and then the price for everything else will come down. So it's always about the price of energy. As that comes down, you'll see prices come down. But I'm still telling you, it's not going to come down as much as you think. It's not going to come down as much as you think. And it might take a little more time to get this done. And then we had the situation where Donald Trump got word that the Colombian president said, your planes can't land here with our people, with our thieves and our crooks and our prisoners that Trump was trying to return after ICE rounded these folks up. There were 2 planes. He wouldn't let them land in Colombia. So Trump was playing golf, I guess. It's Sunday. He needs a day off. Word comes that Gustavo Petro said, you can't land your planes here. Trump got on the phone and said, well, here's the deal. We're just going to raise your tariffs and make all these different restrictions, and your tariffs will go up from 25% to 50% unless you let us land our planes in return. Well, within a few hours, Petro, he caved in and even said, you know what, I'll send my plane to get the people you round up. But you had all the minions, the gotcha minions, on social media screaming, the price of coffee is going to double, could triple. You're not going to get to have your coffee anymore. But that's how quickly they jump on this. This is Democratic dipshittery. And you got to be aware of it because they're going to jump on every little thing. You know, Trump came down Air Force One on the big boy steps, not the little boy steps that Biden had. He was using a handrail. And I'm thinking, oh, God, Donald, Jesus, H. Christ on a popsicle stick. You're holding on to the rail. Stop it. Because they're going to give you shit for holding on the rail coming down the steps. It's Democratic dipshittery. And it's funny now, there's a meme that's going around called Frankly, Margaret, I Don't Care. And that's really all you have to post. If you can pick it up, you can go to our X feed on X, Rat's Ass Podcast on X, and pick this meme up. It says, Margaret, I don't care. And that's J.D. Vance's response to Margaret from ABC on that interview yesterday. But you just post that. Just post that a million times, and we'll cut down on the Democratic dipshittery. All right? All right, it's game time. I've added a new game called Head Trauma to the podcast, and it features multiple categories of trivia that I'm going to rotate from podcast to podcast. This round is called I Start It, You Finish It. I start it, you finish it. That's the category today. So here we go. 44% of men say they have never done this to a woman. What is it? 44% of men say they've never done this to a woman. What is it? I'll have the answer coming up on the podcast, and I'll also post it on the Rat's Ass Podcast Facebook page after the podcast that you connect at ratsasspodcast.com. All right? All right, who's ready for some loose behavior? Pull up your pants and let's go. Let's see what's happening on the Rat's Ass Podcast X feed. This is where we choose an interesting post on X, and we share a few comments to get us warmed up so we don't pull a hammy during the podcast. All right, Damian Scott posted this. What is the one reason you should never be friends with your coworkers outside of work? Alex Gulf observed, if you get promoted, you become their boss. You know, this happened to me a couple of times in my career, and how, you know, it's a little daunting to think about, man, I've been friends with these folks I've been working with for a year, 2 years, and now I'm going to oversee them. And the way I handled that, I just gathered them in a meeting and I said, guys, I know we hang out, we get along, and we're friends, but here's the deal. I'm now going to oversee the action here. So if you're going to try and take advantage of me, I'm just going to fire your ass. I'll still be friends with you outside of work, but I'm hoping that you'll support me like I will support you, and together we'll grow things. But if you're going to act like you can get over on me because we're friends, that's not going to happen. And generally, you get buy-in that way. So if it does happen to you, that's how you can combat it. But you just got to sit down and have that tough conversation. Jared Smythe said, if you hook up with a chick at work, you're as good as gone. Yeah, you are. Today, I can tell you when I started in radio back in the early days, my God, you know, everybody slept around with everybody. It was it was a beautiful thing. And then you get these HR departments in. And I remember when I first started managing radio stations, the first job I got, the owner of the company sat down with me and he says, here's the deal. I don't want you having any meetings one-on-one behind a closed door with a woman. You've always got to have somebody in the meeting with you. You had to have a voucher. And I carried that on for many years. For probably, how many years did I do that? Oh, golly, well over 30 years I did that. I kept that rule of thumb. I never had a one-on-one meeting with a member of the opposite sex. At that time, there was only one, too, by the way. No. Yeah, but that was a rule, man. I never sat down and had a meeting one-on-one with one of our members of the opposite sex unless I had somebody else in the meeting. And therefore, I avoided a lot of conflict from doing that. GGP said, because they're all snitches, gossipers, and backstabbers. F them. I hope GGP doesn't own an AR-15. My God, that could be bad. All right, let's get into today's Celebrity Sleaze. God bless. Folks, I got to tell you, I really had to dig for the sleaze and the cheese today. Everything was Taylor Swift. This, Taylor Swift, that. Taylor Swift went to the second stall to drop a deuce at the championship game. Yeah, everything was about Taylor Swift, Taylor Swift, Taylor Swift. So I hope that you will appreciate the fact that 3 out of the 4 stories I do here for you do not include Taylor Swift. This one will, though. Most women go to a football game. They'll wear an $80 team jersey, maybe throw on a $50 pair of jeans and a $75 pair of sneakers. It's about it. But not Taylor Swift. She showed up at yesterday's AFC Championship game with Buffalo wearing a $10,000 Louis Vuitton outfit. Tell you what, if Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce ever split, I promise you, Taylor Swift will never attend another football game. Never. Jennifer Lopez made a surprise appearance at a nightclub in Utah over the weekend during the Sundance Film Festival. She performed her hit, All I Have. Not waiting for tonight, which would have been a better choice for people dancing on the dance floor, but I have a feeling J-Lo was probably getting a cut of the bar's profits and wanted to dump the dance floor. Timothée Chalamet made an appearance on Saturday Night Live, and of course, he's feeling the heat over the weekend after making what is considered to be an off-color remark about late President Jimmy Carter. I guess during his appearance on Saturday Night Live, they did a skit where he was a bungee jump instructor, and people are dangling from bungees. And he made the comment, he says, "All right, everybody, I want you to perform the Jimmy Carter." At that point, everybody goes limp in the bungee harness. The audience gasped in fear, and the viewers took to social media to share their displeasure. I suspect these are the jealous people because Timothy is getting it on with Kylie Jenner, and they're not. All right, do you remember the Octomom, Nadia Schulman? She gave birth to 8 kids in one night when her vagina turned into a popcorn machine, and she started popping out one kid after another. Like, there's a boy, there's a girl, there's another girl, there's a boy. Yeah, 8 kids in one night. Can you imagine? My God. Well, those kids are now 16 years old. 16. So happy birthday to all of them, all 8. I still want to meet the doctor who performed Nadia's vaginal rejuvenation, though. All right, but who gives a rat's ass? All right, the wait's over. Here comes the most popular part of the show, the Rat's Ass Podcast email from our Gmail, where you email your questions, comments, thoughts, and observations to me at ratsasspodcast@gmail.com, and I respond. No topic is out of bounds or off the table, but the more outrageous and salacious, the better, always. I do not read your email in advance. My producer, Fleabag, forwards them to me with your name, where you're from, and rewrites them so I can respond on the fly in rapid fire. Fleabag, what do we got today? Hit send. You didn't send me I don't have the emails. No, they're not here. They're not locked in. You got to have these locked in. This is why I don't pay them, folks. All right. We're just waiting for them to show up. There they are. They're here. Hang on. Let me do a click here and a click there. Here, click, there, click, everywhere, click, click. All right, here we go. John M. from Dublin, Pennsylvania. I read on X where you want Buffalo to win the Super Bowl. Well, I did, yeah. If you grew up near Pittsburgh, why would you want somebody other than Philadelphia? It's like, well, I grew up near Pittsburgh. Why would I give a rat's ass about Philadelphia, for crying out loud? I have a good friend who is from Philly. Philly Rob. He now lives up in Washington State near Seattle. And, God, we have great battles because I am a diehard Pittsburgh Penguins fan. And our hockey beefs, we got to put one of these on the air for you. We got to put one on the podcast. Oh, we go out. It starts out kind of friendly, and then it gets down to where we're threatening war against each other. But that's as soon as he gets on, Sidney Crosby, you're crossing the line there, man. But your question was, why would I not back the Philadelphia Eagles? Well, the fact is, now that it is Kansas City in the Super Bowl, I am backing Philadelphia, John. I am going back to the Keystone State and following the Eagles. Mary W. from Waterbury, Connecticut. I have a dating dilemma. I've been dating a guy I really like for about 2 months, but my ex just moved back and wants to have dinner. What do you suggest? Well, I would suggest, I guess it depends on how much you really, really like this new guy. You've been dating him for 2 months. Maybe you test him out. Maybe you say, hey, my ex just moved back, wants to have dinner. Maybe you see how he responds to that. If he's angry, maybe he really likes you a lot. And if he says, I don't care, maybe he's just trying to tap you for as long as you'll let him tap you. But I suggest, seriously, if you really want to do this, why don't you say, yeah, we'll have dinner with the ex and have him meet you and your new boyfriend. See how that works out. Couple of ideas for you there, Mary. All right, Brad P. from Cody, Wyoming. I've been married for 5 years to an ugly woman. Inside and out. She's an ugly woman, inside and out. I want to get the hell away from her, but we have 3 kids I adore. What's the sensible thing to do? Well, not come here for advice. That's one. But can you move her to the basement? Seriously, though, there's no magical solution here, Brad. I think you have to talk it out. I think you have to talk it out with her. Let her know how you feel, but be prepared for her to beat the hell out of you with a mop. Alfonso D. in Pelotas, Brazil. Do you pay attention to what happens politically in other countries? Hey, you know what? That's a great question, Alfonso. Only if it potentially affects the United States, and that's about it. I try to keep up on a lot of information, but to go around the globe and look at every country's political atmosphere, that's a lot to ask. So, if it comes up in conversation, kind of like the thing with Colombia yesterday with Trump and Colombia, I'll pay attention to that. But, if you're asking me if I just go out of my way to look at the political landscape for other countries, the answer is no. Carl B., Biloxi, Mississippi. You tried to slip one past us last week. You said you went on 3 dates in 1 day. We want details. Well, there's really nothing to tell. I had a tennis date early in the morning. I had an early dinner with another lady that I met, and a third one at a nightclub that night. They were all just dates with no hanky-spanky, okay? So I just know it was a stressful day, because you had to dress for the part. You had to keep all the names. That was the challenge, keeping all the names straight. But yeah, that only happened 1 day. I learned my lesson. I never did that again. Olivia M. from Bradford, England. You mentioned in a previous podcast that the coolest place you visited outside the United States was California. When did California leave the USA? I'm sorry, Olivia. California is still part of the United States, but when I would travel to other states for work, I used to joke around and saying, God, it's good to get back to the United States for a change. And it kind of loosened the room up a little bit, because Californians, when we go anywhere, we are so despised by everybody in every state, especially Montana. You never want to go to Montana and say you're from California, because then you get the, where's my rifle hat? In fact, one of the first meetings I had when I took over some stations in Montana a few years ago, sat down with the guys, and the big cheese at the time said, say you're from California, huh? Yes, sir. We don't like California people coming here and telling us what to do. So every time I'd call them on the phone, I'd just say, hey, it's Elliot here, and I'm not calling to tell you what to do, even though I was. But, that gives you an example. So it really came down as just part of a joke. And when I get back to California, I say, God, it was great to get back to the United States for a change, because California really is different from the other 49 states. Trust me on that one. Rob P. from Seattle, Washington said, what do you think about the Raiders hiring Pete Carroll? I say when you're in a division with Andy Reid, Sean Payton, and Jim Harbaugh, you need a guy with the mindset of Pete Carroll. He's won a Super Bowl. When you think about it, Andy Reid, Super Bowl winner. Sean Payton, Super Bowl winner. Jim Harbaugh has taken one team to the Super Bowl. But the guy's a winner. He turned the Chargers around from a 4-11 team to an 11-6 team this year. Harbaugh's a great coach, so I think you have to match wits. So I like the hire. Pete's 73, but he's got a lot of energy. He's like Trump. He can just go all day, all night, so I have no problems with it whatsoever. But you got to have somebody who's got leadership qualities. And from what I understand, Pete Carroll is excited. I don't know if he grew up a Raider fan or not, but this guy is he's already at it, man. He's already beating up the locker rooms. He's ready to go for next season, so I love hearing that. All right, keep your emails with your thoughts, observations, comments, and questions coming to the Rat's Ass Podcast at gmail.com. And I'll give you my 2 cents that makes absolutely no sense on the next episode. All right, you want the head trauma answer, I bet. I start it, you finish it is the category. 44% of men say they have never done this to a woman. What is it? 44% of men say they have never done this to a woman. What is it? Do you think you have the right answer? Well, let's find out. 44% of men say they've never made a woman climax from oral sex. Did you get it right? If you didn't, See a doctor about your head trauma. All right, I got to get up out of this mofo and get going. But I do have one more thing for you. One more thing. Did you know when you're looking at someone, your mind ignores their nose? Unless you look specifically like at a zit or a blackhead or a bump on their nose, or maybe it's a little wide, a little long for the face, typically your mind just ignores the nose. So the question I have for you, though, is have you ever wondered why God put a wet, drainy thing like your nose upside down over your mouth? You ever wonder about that? The great comedian Gallagher made that observation a long time ago, and I never forgot it. Shout-outs in the USA to Boston, Mass., Austin, Texas, and Sarasota, Florida, around the world, in Bordeaux, France, Jena, Germany, and Verona, Italy. Thanks. That's it for this episode of the Rat's Ass Podcast. Make sure you check it out at the new ratsasspodcast.com to connect with us on the socials, listen to the podcast. You can check out the blog to discover the 15 ways you can tell if a woman loves you. Also, 12 tips for men on how to flirt successfully for women. Oh, yeah, we celebrate and educate on the Rat's Ass Podcast blog, so check that out. We'll do this again on Wednesday, January 29th. Take care of each other, and thanks for dropping by the Rat's Ass Podcast, a division of Mark Elliott Media in partnership with the Ozone Podcast Group.